given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Jen Cruz, and this is the Journey Radio Show. Welcome to Wednesday night. Hey, we're showing up as the She-Squatchers tonight because we're going to be talking about Bigfoot again, and that's our favorite subject. So, hey, I've got my trusty teammate Jena Grover on the line. Hey, Jena, are you there?
I am here and super excited yet again because we have another fabulous guest. So
we do. I'm totally excited. You know, this guy came to me with a high referral. So, and when we posted the ad about him on our Facebook page, one of our super awesome guys that follows us all over the place, he was really excited that we were going to have Scott Carpenter on the show tonight. Woo! So let me tell you a little bit about him. Scott has been researching the Sasquatch phenomenon and other cryptids since 2009. A member of North American Bigfoot Search, Scott participated in the groundbreaking Sasquatch Genome Study, contributing multiple hair and saliva samples, 11 of which were used in the study. The study conclusively proved that the creature known as Sasquatch is a human hybrid. Scott's research has been featured on the television show Finding Bigfoot and on the award-winning series by Les Stroud, Survivor Man Bigfoot. So let's not waste any more time because we've only got an hour with this man. Let's bring him on. Hey, Scott, are you there?
I'm here. Hi, guys. How are y'all doing?
Oh, we're awesome. Thank you so much for coming on our show.
You're welcome. Glad to be on. Thank you.
Very awesome. So how did you get started in this whole crazy Bigfoot world?
And it's crazy. As an adult, I had an encounter back in 2009 when I was fishing. I've told the story hundreds of times, but just real quick, because I don't want to take up a lot of time. I was on the lake. I was fishing. I really wasn't interested in Bigfoot as far as researching or anything. I'd just been watching Bigfoot videos during my lunch hour because I worked in like an office where I was by myself, and Bigfoot, I just took an interest in Bigfoot videos. I'd watch fishing, hunting, sports videos, and then this Bigfoot thing come up, and I'd seen these guys go out in the woods and whoop, and for some crazy reason, while I'm out there fishing on a real quiet, still morning, I made some silly whoops, kind of embarrassing, hoping no one, heard me because, right behind me was a subdivision across the lake. And to my shock and surprise, I got a response, something bipedal came walking down through the woods, tearing things up, came to the edge of the bank, never did come where I could see it, but it walked up and back forced the bank and grunted and hoofed. And then after, I kind of scared. I kind of backed off the trolling motor and backed off a little bit. And after going, I think it heard me at that point and looked out and must have saw, what was going on. And then it kind of gave a big sigh and just a hoof. And then slowly, calmly walked back up into the forest, bipedally, one step at a time. And that's what got me started in 2009 in this craziness that we call Bigfoot research, Sasquatch research. So that's how I got started.
And you were hooked.
I was hooked. The next couple of weeks later, I had a video camera and was going into the area trying to figure things out, and things started happening, and down the rabbit hole I went.
That's awesome. It's very addicting for us too. I know the more we get out there, the more answers we find, the more questions that we have. Exactly. So it's a constant to be continued that we want to find the answers to. So. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about, you participated in the DNA study, and I know that there's been some controversy about that, and I would love to hear about it firsthand from you.
Sure. Well, the study, and I actually wrote a book, and shameless plug, because I kept getting asked about it. It's a very controversial subject in the Bigfoot community. There's two camps. I'm sure you're all aware. There's the bipedal ape camp, and then there's the human hybrid camp. And of course, based on the evidence, I'm in the human hybrid camp. And I started corresponding and working with Dave Pilates. I'm a member of his, NABS organization, North American Bigfoot Search, which he started. And even before that, I was getting all this crazy stuff going on, getting some videos. And he asked me at that time, "Can you collect some hair? We've got a study going on." And basically, it was a loose group of individuals, highly motivated people, but still just, that kind of band together. It's a miracle they even stayed together, but they band together, and with self-funding, they did this study. Dr. Ketchum, David, bless his heart, and Dr. Ketchum, she got her first inkling came from the Josh Gates, and he came to her with some a sample, and she kind of blew it off. And she, she was an independent contractor, that was doing DNA sequencing for animals, and like if you, let's say someone sold you some bull semen and said this is from a a high end award-winning bull and it's $20,000. Well, you want to make sure you got the real deal. So Dr. Ketchum was, she got into the business and learned how to do the DNA sequencing. So she, and that's what she do. She take it and say, yeah, that's true. This is, you got the real deal, or some guy's trying to shaft you, so to speak. So that's kind of what she was doing. So when the Josh Gates and his crew came to her from his show, she was about the only one willing to test it, and she kind of goofed around and she wasted most of it. But the results were really not, really unusual and weird. And for the first time, she's like, "Whoa, there could be something to this." So that kind of got her mind open to it. And then David Pilates was going around at the same time, so she started her deal, and they started getting some Bigfoot samples. David Pilates was looking for someone to start testing, and everywhere he'd go, as soon as he said, "I've got Sasquatch samples," people would say like, "No, we're not testing them." And so it was kind of like, they kind of found each other, and Melba said, "Sure." And so that's kind of how it, you had Melba and what she started, David and he started, and you kind of had this group of people come together, Adrian Erickson, Wally Hersham, the Olympic Project, several of these different groups, type A personalities came together, and they start, kind of work together in a loose conjunction to start this study. And Cliff noted, by the time it was over, there was 111 samples submitted. They came out with 3 complete nuclear and mitochondrial genomes, about 25 mitochondrial genomes. And they did double blind and triple blind testing. And basically, they came to the conclusion that it was a human hybrid, because the mitochondrial DNA was from a human female from all 111 samples. And the nuclear DNA was very unusual. It had mutations and other weirdness about it, and it didn't match anything in Genbank. Genbank, real quick, talk fast. Genbank is the repository where all the scientists all put their genomes, and so you got a search engine, kind of like a Google engine, that you can take you can electronically, you get your machine, it gives you your sequence, and you take that sequence and they call it blasting, but basically you compare it against all the genomes in Genbank. It comes back and says you got a match. Well, there's over, I can't remember what the number is now. It's 3 billion pairs in that, and it came back and it didn't match anything. But the 3 genomes matched each other, but they didn't match anything in Genbank. So, they did the study. It's a long story. There was a big battle. The 8 people got together and they tried to discredit the study, and it actually got selected. The journal Nature actually took it and peer reviewed it, and that in itself is a huge accomplishment. They get about 14,000 requests a year, and of that 14,000, they only got a limited space as a weekly journal, and of the 14,000, they only take about 7% that they actually peer review. Well, they selected the study to peer review. Now, the people who are against the study will say, well, see, they peer reviewed it and they wouldn't publish it. But just the fact that they peer reviewed it, and not only once, but they actually invited her to resubmit with corrections. So, it's a lot bigger deal than people want to think. If it was total garbage and total bunk and hogwash, as Cliff likes to say, then why would the journal Nature not only accept it out of the 14,000 of the very important things they get every year, but then after they rejected it, they said, make these corrections and resubmit it, and we'll peer review it again. They don't, that's something that some of the meldrums of the world don't have an answer for. So, basically, long story short is Journal Nature turned it down. They tried to find somewhere to publish it. I mean, Melba was going to actually just publish it, put the paper out and say, here it is, download it. But they found a journal, Upstart, that said, hey, we'll publish this. This will be great. This will be groundbreaking. And the journal's name was called Phase at the time. And I mean, they notified us all, hey, we're going to, the study's getting ready to be published, be prepared, to do interviews, yada, yada, yada. We get all prepared. And literally, I'm talking like it was going to be published at midnight. And at about 9 o'clock that night, I got an email from Dave Pilates that said they're not going to publish. And some real weird shenanigans went on. The guy's lawyer said, if you publish this, I will not support you. And this guy had other interests. This was just a hobby. And it was just weird. It's just really weird. So they pulled it, and she's like, well, she had passing peer reviews. I mean, she had a blind peer reviews passing, and so she's like, well, I need to I want to preserve these. So basically she bought the journal, and she did self-publish, which I know everybody's, it's a big no. Well, when you got a Sasquatch Genome Study, okay, come on, nobody's going to publish it anyway. So anyway, it was published, and of course the 8 people, the Meldrums and the other people of the world, poo-pooed it and said it was a bunch of hogwash, a bunch of garbage. And they personally destroyed Dr. Ketchum. They did I think it was like a conspiracy of the like-minded. In other words, we don't have to get in the smoke-filled room and agree. If 4 or 5 groups are against something, we're going to work together. I don't have to make a phone call and tell you, hey, we're going to squash this. So you had all these motivations going on: money, prestige, cognitive dissonance. We just can't believe, it's a human hybrid. It has to be a bipedal ape. I wrote all these books, and my career it's a bipedal ape. And so, pretty much, a majority of the Bigfoot community just rejected it. Not because it, and it was basically based upon the fact it was a human hybrid. If we'd come out and said it's a bipedal ape, I'm sure it would have been wholly and completely accepted, and everybody would have been, running around the streets. But instead, since it was a human hybrid, and I mean, and even back when David Pilates did his books, and he had a sketch artist come in and start doing sketches. Well, all the sketches come back looking real human. He did the book Tribal Bigfoot, and then the Hoopa Project, and Harvey Pratt, a forensic artist, he hired him to come in and do witness sketches, and all the sketches look very human, or Native American. So that already kind of ruffled feathers. And then when the DNA came back, human hybrid, that just put them over the edge, so to speak. So that's kind of what happened. Like now, if you Google Melba Ketchum, you're going to get 50 negative things said about her. They used to call it Melba bashing. Bless her heart. For regardless of what you think of her, she stuck her neck out. She put her professional reputation on the line. She lost her business, her DNA business. She was a expert witness for the state, a forensic witness. She lost that. And so, she lost everything. These people ruined her. Okay. They want to, they thumped her chest. Yeah. Well, you run somebody over frickin' Sasquatch study. Okay. Come on. This is ridiculous. So anyway, so basically that's kind of where we're at. I wrote the book called Sasquatch DNA Study, Truth Denied, because every time I'd go speak, I don't speak very much, but when I would go speak, I'd always have, a big crowd run up afterwards and ask me about the study. And I've heard this and I've heard that. So I'd have, after my talk, then I'd have to give another 30, 45-minute talk, a little private talk to everybody, explain what went on in the study. And finally, I just got tired of doing that. And I said, well, I'll just write a book from my perspective about what happened. And that's what I did. And so I skewer some, I make some people mad. And Dr. Meldrum has vowed on his Facebook page to get a group of people together and go through my book and just, and critique it and tell me where I'm wrong. And I'm still waiting on that. We'll see if that ever comes out. But, it's kind of, I respect Dr. Meldrum, but it's, he is, it's put us on the opposite sides of the spectrum here. And that's fine. Because, so it's just the way it is.
So for our listeners that maybe don't understand the mitochondrial and the nuclear DNA testing, the mitochondrial test the mother's lineage, but it's not necessarily saying that the mother was human. It was saying that the mother way back in the lineage was human. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
In other words, whenever this species was created, the Eve was a human female, and the male that crossbred with her was unknown. Of course, back when the study came out, everybody was like, "Oh, that can't happen. We don't know the crossbreeding. That's stupid. That doesn't happen." And then, literally a year after the study come out, we start having Nature starts publishing study after study where, with the Neanderthals crossbred with an unknown hominid. So we've had several studies now where they say, where it's basically the same results as the DNA study, but instead of a Sasquatch, it's some pile of bones they dug up in a cave, and when they do the DNA testing, the nuclear DNA is unknown. So it's the same thing, and then they declare, oh yeah, there was hybridization. But when Melba's study come out, they poo-pooed that and said, well, that's impossible. There's no hybridization. So kind of, as technology's gone on, these studies have come out. There's been more and more support that yes, there has been hybridization, and yes, there is hybridization currently with a human female and unknown, male progenitor. So it's just not Sasquatch. So
my understanding of DNA testing, a lot of times, it's the easiest thing to test is the mitochondrial DNA, from my understanding. And correct. So, if people are testing the mitochondrial DNA, and only that, and it comes back human, like it would, because it's passed from mother to child without changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it would, that would just explain a lot of the samples that have come back from other places saying, well, it must have been contaminated because it came back human.
Exactly.
So to me, that kind of says, are these puzzle pieces that go into the puzzle that go into support of that?
Yeah. Well, see, what people don't realize is, especially when Dr. Ketchum and the team, there was actually a team. It wasn't just Dr. Ketchum. There were 6 other scientists with her. So that's the other myth they created. They isolated her, said it's the Dr. Ketchum study, and she went in the back of her barn and cooked all this up. There was a team. And so, put that out there. But basically, what they did is they forensically washed the hair. They decontaminated the hair. You can do that. The great Dr. Sykes, I've got a quote in my book, you can forensically wash the hair and robotically extract it so there's no contamination. So basically what they did, because it cost a lot of money, they actually David Pilates had provided a hair sample that was pristine and was Bigfoot. I mean, they literally had the lady saw the Bigfoot leave the sample. The policeman collected it, so they knew they had Bigfoot hair. Okay, they had it. So they knew what it looked like. So they had a hair screener would look at the hair, and if it was Bigfoot hair, it didn't match anything else. If it wasn't human hair, dog hair, cat hair, whatever, then he would put it in for testing, because it cost several $1,000s per run. They already had limited funds. They didn't have millions of dollars. They had about I think somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000, and it was all privately funded money from Erickson and Wally Hersham. That's where the money came from. So, when you've got a limited amount of funds, you're not going to test, dog hair. Okay, come on. So anyway, so that's, so basically what you had was you had non-human hair yield human mitochondrial DNA. And that's one of the problems. Not, Todd Disotell, bless his heart, they keep running to him on the different shows, and they keep giving him sausage care, and he keeps coming back. Oh, it's human. It must have been contaminated. Well, either one or two things, Todd. Either you're incompetent and you don't know how to forensically wash hair, or maybe, just maybe, you could think out of the box, and maybe, just maybe, hair that has non-human morphology that yields mitochondrial DNA that's human is Sasquatch hair. And I think that's what's been going on since the 80s. David Pilates even had a blog about that. He kind of fell on this before it all going on. He said throughout the years, 80s and 90s and 2000s, sample after sample would go in. Oh, it comes back human. Oh, it's contaminated. Well, we got a bunch of labs that are incompetent, right? Because basically they're admitting, well, we contaminated your sample. Oh, well, then why would I ever use your lab again? So anyway, I'm probably talking too much about that, but that's kind of where that went. And you're on target. That's what I'm saying. If you have a hair that's not human, but it gives you human mitochondrial DNA, guess what? More likely you've got a true Bigfoot hair. Because nuclear DNA, you've got to really have blood or a piece of flesh. You've got to have some more, like, even saliva doesn't really do good for nuclear DNA. You need, blood's the best thing to get nuclear DNA from, which is kind of hard to get a Sasquatch to give you a blood sample.
Right.
So
well, we've got Jimmy in the chat room, and he's asking, so that I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this right. The Tlingit say that they are descended from the big man. So is it our DNA or is it theirs?
Well, my theory is that because in my research, I wrote a book called The Nephilim Among Us, and Nephilim is a spiritual word, or from the Bible, which means to fall. It's real quick. Basically, the fallen angels mated with human women, and they had offspring. It was a hybrid, and it had spiritual and physical attributes. My theory is the Sasquatch is a descendant of that, and depending on genetic purity, you have different abilities. Because I started noticing in my research, I'm sorry, but they have supernatural abilities. I hate this word woo. And you have these people who are just like, well, we won't believe the woo. No, basically they see the woo and they ignore the woo. Because, as a Bigfoot researcher, you do this for a couple, 3 years, you're going to run into this stuff. You just are, if you're serious. And then you have a decision. All right, am I going to have an open mind and go down this rabbit hole and see what's going on? Or am I just going to ignore this and stay with my bipedal ape? It's, 100% corporal. There's nothing supernatural about this thing. And so that's kind of, again, with the Bigfoot world, you got that split. So you got the ape people that think there's nothing going on. And you got, the people that think that it's some sort of human hybrid. It's it has spiritual attributes. So my opinion is the thing, has spiritual attributes, which give it these, what we call supernatural abilities. Now, we don't understand how they can do it. So we call it supernatural. I'm not 100% sure, it's supernatural. I think they either genetically have abilities and they know stuff we don't know. See, I think the Sasquatch is a person. They are a people. They're not a dumb ape. And they have intellect and emotion and will just like we do. And there's different, and they have free will and they exercise it. And they have a whole bunch of motivations going on. So when we encounter them, we don't know what emotional state or what they're feeling. That's why I think it gets complicated and we get all these different ranges of encounters from, oh, this one helped me. Oh, this one was really mean to me. Oh, this one was good and he did this. Oh, this one was sexually deviant and did that. I mean, you just like a human race, and we have, who knows who you're going to walk to up street and what they're thinking. It's the same thing with the Sasquatch. And, I know that was a long answer but that's kind of where I think we're at. We've got a human hybrid that's a Nephilim descendant. And then depending on genetically how pure it is, in other words, unfortunately, people don't want to hear this, but they do take humans for husbands and wives forcefully, and they have children by human beings. They've been doing this for thousands of years. And so you got the genetics gets a little bit diluted through the time. So depending on how genetically pure, depends on what kind of abilities they have. That kind of explains why some people say, well, Granny ran over one and killed it, and the military came and got it. And then someone else will tell you, well, I saw one walking through a field and then it just disappeared. Well, that's why you have a diversity in ability. Some are more pure and have more of the spiritual angelic abilities, and some don't. It's just the way, this is Scott's theory, my opinion, but I think that's kind of helps explain all this, inconsistency in what people see from them, because you got the full spectrum.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
That does make a lot of sense. Well, even in the human race, we have people who have more abilities than other people do, so
Yep.
everybody's got their own gifts that are available to them. So that would make sense and I think in any species too.
Yep.
Also.
Yeah.
What is your conclusion on what the Sasquatch really are?
They're Nephilim. That they really are a descendant of the Nephilim. They're a people. They're not fully human, and they have some what we call supernatural abilities. Just like I explained, I think that's what they are. And I think as time goes on, I think that I'm a knower. A lot of people say you believe. No, I don't believe. There's no believing to this. I've seen them, and I've experienced a bunch of stuff with them, so I know they exist. And to me, that they're a people. I mean, the Native Americans, basically called them a tribe, called them a people. They weren't a wild animal. I mean, they actually had trading packs with them, and in some stories, they, like in California, the Hopi Indians actually camped with them until one of the young bucks raped a squaw, and they made a agreement. You guys got to go up in the mountains, and we'll stay down here in the valley. We'll trade, and we'll have meetings, but we just can't cohabitate because we're just not compatible. You can't go around raping our women. So and I'm of the same mindset. They're a people. They live in small family groups, usually, a male and a female and a couple, 3 children. And then those family groups form loose clans, family-based clans. And that they kind of keep it small. One of the rule sets is for right now, they want to stay hidden from humans and, want to limit contact. And so that's kind of how, it's better. You can do that better in small groups. They're very much like, you got to think about them like a Native American tribe, but in smaller groups. Because, if you think about how the Native Americans, when the, white settlers came in, you had some Native tribes that were very friendly and accommodating. You had some tribes that were just indifferent and like, okay, and we'll stay away from these white people. And then you had some tribes that were savage and killed every white person they found. And I think, to the same extent, that's what you're dealing with the Sasquatch. You've got, what I'm saying? You've got different, you've got different clans and different family groups, and they all have different, attitudes toward human beings. Problem is, I tell people when they want to get into research, I said, be careful, because, they don't have a little sign going across their chest that says, I'm the good one. Or, I'm the narcissistic murderer. You don't know when you meet one. You don't. And their rule set, they're not going to speak to us, rarely. They're not going to interact with us. They don't want us to study them. They may watch us, but, so, that's a long explanation of what they are. I better hush. Yeah, they're a human hybrid, and I think they're Nephilim descendants. There you go.
That's a good answer.
Very much.
We are about at the half of the show, so we're going to take our 2-minute break right now, and stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back in 2 minutes with Scott Carpenter. Awesome.
Good.
You're doing that. Awesome.
Thank you.
You're doing great.
If I'm too long-winded, just shut me up, cut me off.
That's why we have you on here, is to tell your beautiful stories.
There's just so much to go over in an hour. I have to be careful. So some shows I get on and everybody gets caught up in just the early start, and I end up telling a couple stories when I first got into it. The next thing you know, the show's over, and that's all I covered. So it's kind of like I want to let's just move past that and get on to other stuff.
Well, I have a question for you from the chat room. Jimmy's in the chat room, and he's
Sure.
the guy who was really excited to have you on the show.
Yeah.
And he says, if the opportunity presents itself, ask him about taking Dave Paulides out and what happened out there. He wants to hear your perspective. So when we come back from the break,
Sure.
let's
Yeah.
ask you about that real quick, and then
Yeah.
we'll get on with the other talking points.
Sure.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, good old Dave. Have y'all been able to have Dave on?
We have not. I have met him briefly at an event that we were so busy at. I didn't get to chat with him
Yeah.
as much as I would have liked to. And yet, of course, you think there's always going to be time later, and there wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
30 seconds.
Yeah, he's a good one. He's a good guy. You'd like him.
And go.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show. And hey, we're showing up as the She-Squatchers. So hey, would you check us out online at She-Squatchers.com. Right at the top of the page there, you're going to find a link to our Facebook page. Would you please come on over and give us a like and follow us there for all the most up-to-date what's going on with us. And that's where you're going to find it, is right there on Facebook. And hey, we do have a YouTube channel that we often will upload our video episodes to. And so you can find us on YouTube at She-Squatchers Official. Won't you please come and subscribe to our channel there? Tonight, we've got an amazing guest on with us. We've got Scott Carpenter coming to us, and we're going to come right back with a question from our chat room from Jimmy. He says, could you please ask him about taking Dave Paulides out and what happened while he was out there?
Sure. So when I first started corresponding with Dave, and I think Dave, I mean, I was getting some really wild stuff. And though I was sending him videos and stuff like that, I think he wanted to check me out and say, is this guy really on the level, or is he just full of crap? So anyway, but Dave came out in August of, what was it, 2010, I guess. And I took him to the Great Smoky Mountains. Don't have a problem telling people where I've researched, because, you know, it's just a main trail. It's nothing special. It's, you know, I'm not got some special hidden place. And we were walking up the mountain. It was in August. And anybody's familiar with the Smoky Mountains, it can be like it's a rainforest situation, basically. So it's like, it's late August. It's 102 degrees. It's so hot. It's like it's steaming. And so we're walking up the hill. We're walking up to go into the area where I've had activity. And we're not even there yet. And we stopped to rest on the trail up, and I always have a camera and I always have it going. I learned, like, the first time out in the woods doing this, you always take the camera and you always have it running. Always. You never turn it off. So we're just sitting there talking and we're resting, and all of a sudden, on our left, there is a little ravine, and it's just full of rhododendron. It's all growed up. All of a sudden, we hear something yelling. We think it's yelling at us, yeah, and it's yelling. And David looks at me, and I look at him, and it's like, I said, "You got your gun?" He says, "Yeah." He said, "What is it? A bear?" I said, he's like, "No, ain't no bear," And these things are yelling. Well, I record it and get it on recording. So we send that recording off to Scott Nelson, who it's Navy linguist, who did the analysis of Ron Moorhead's stuff. And he come back and he transcribed it. He said those were two individuals yelling at each other. And, that was language. And so, other than Sierra Sounds, as far as I know, there's a few others. I mean, there's the sales stuff from Texas. That's one of the few where you've actually got someone, Scott Nelson, kind of certified that. And so that was one of the episodes. And the other thing was, he came back later in the fall, and he actually had his only Bigfoot sighting with me. I took him in an area where I had gotten several hair samples for the DNA study and had gotten Bigfoot on the back trail camera. And I was wandering around, he was running around. And basically what happened was, he kind of squatted down. He looked across. There was we were going up a holler. And I'll use a southern term, holler. And there was a creek that meandered through it, and across the creek was thick with rhododendron. When he looked over there, there was a Sasquatch just squatted down staring at him. And so he's looking at it, I'm looking at him, and I've got the camera and I'm wandering off, and he's, he knows better than to look away, and he keeps, psst, Scott, psst, Scott. Finally, he has to turn because I couldn't hear him. He goes, Scott, come here. And when he turns back around, it's gone. And he described it, basically it had the raccoon look. It had the traditional, it had the protruding brow. He basically said you couldn't see its eyes. They were so far back in, Coke bottle eyes, black hair. And it kind of had we call it the raccoon look because, it had the hair, actually went, around like that. And, that was his first and only sighting of a Sasquatch. And he was with me. So that was pretty neat.
Very, very cool. Very cool. So do you bring a lot of people out? I just wanted to quick ask a question. Do you?
No, not really. I mean, I've had a couple of people come out. I mean, Les Stroud came out and did the show. The Finding Bigfoot people came out. Every now and then somebody had contacted me. I don't do it much now, but I mean, I tell people where I go. I mean, it's public trails, it's Turkey Pen Ridge and so, and it's Cades Cove, and it's not like, I'm hiding it. A lot of people, of course, people will walk and say, I didn't see nothing. I said, well, I didn't expect you to, it's kind of a watch the watcher situation. They come to the trail to watch people, and they know when that's the difference. A lot of people, as your researcher, they know that so you're of more interest to them. They'll watch you closer. And then, then that's where you got to be careful, because a lot of people get a lot, I warn people in my book, you got to be careful. This is like ghost hunting. And if you actively seek them out, you give them permission to do the same to you. And so don't be shocked if they show up at your house or, they start interacting with you, and then other craziness starts happening. And that's what happened to me, because usually it starts with Bigfoot. And then you get the dogmen show up, and the orbs show up, and the gray aliens show up, and the poltergeist show up.
Well,
so
and
it just starts down that rabbit hole.
I totally agree with you. It does. It starts with one thing, and it just completely starts unraveling after that. And then you have so many questions. But speaking of Sasquatch, dogman encounters, what other, you said it leads to all these different things. Would you mind talking about that?
Well, sure. I mean, during my Bigfoot research, right in the middle of, the DNA study, which, and back, I don't know if you've seen the footage, but I had one literally come up behind me about 3-4 feet away, and you can clearly see it moving. It's in really thick stuff, but it comes up, it has its head back, throws its head forward, kind of pushes its snout through has some, pine limbs laying on its snout. It's literally right there. I don't see it back. You hear me use the word back trail. I kind of got on early on in my research that the Bigfoot are watching your eyes, and they would rather you not see them than get on camera. So I kind of accidentally found that out one time when I was holding the camera and filmed one. I got just a few seconds of one in the brush beside me. And so I'm thinking, that's interesting. So I started strapping a camera to my shoulder, filming backwards all the time. And, of course, a lot of people see my footage. Well, why did you move? Why did you get closer? It's because I didn't know it was back there. That's what's called back trail. So basically, I film go out for 4 hours. I get 4 hours worth of, stuff on the back trail. Then I have to review it. But when I was reviewing this, there's this dogman thing that came up, just for a few seconds. I start to turn my shoulder. It starts wiggling, figure out what it's going to do. And as I continue to turn it, it lowers itself down, and then I walk away. And, and of course I got this footage. Of course, when I first got it, Dave's like, don't show it to anybody. We got too much crap going on with the DNA study and angel DNA rumors, and, just don't show it. Of course, I held it for a while, and then finally when things cleared, I posted it, and, then all the dogman people went bizarre and calling me a dogman expert. I'm not a dogman expert. I don't research dogman. I don't go after dogman. I know I'm probably killing myself on sales or something, but you know, I don't. I mean, they just showed up and I got them on film. That's it. I found out and I started finding their footprints too. But that's along that, you know, and so that's kind of, you know, it's kind of like you go out looking for Sasquatch and the freaking dogmen show up. That's pretty much what happened. And then I just, you know, if I'd have got, you know, and I finally got the white Bigfoot footage, which is probably as good as the dogman footage. But if I'd have got a Bigfoot that close, that clear, you know, that'd been the end of the story. But unfortunately, it was a creature at the time that wasn't in vogue. Now the dogman's in vogue. You know, there's dogman groups all over the place. And half the time I do an interview, it's people want me to do an interview about the dogman. So, but you know, then orbs, you know, I had at my house, I had an orb situation where I felt weird. I felt something was a presence. And, you know, being a researcher, you know, I'm sitting out back just enjoying an evening, and I pick up my cell phone and I just do a 360 all the way around me. And sure enough, I capture pictures of these orbs. Now I couldn't see them, but they showed up on the camera. And then, you know, I had in one of my Bigfoot encounters, unfortunately, there's a Bigfoot here and then sticking its head out behind a tree is some sort of gray looking entity. And then I got trail cameras, pictures of some sort of gray looking entity with big eyes. So, you know, here we go down that rabbit hole. And then I see UFOs and then there we go, you know, so it's just like, you know, and it's not like I'm asking, but I think you can open yourself up for it. That's where I get into the Nephilim, and there's a spiritual element to this. And I really figured this out when a ghost hunter contacted me because they were ghost hunting and they went to a graveyard and a Bigfoot showed up. And so this lady contacts me and says, I'd like to learn a little bit about Bigfoot research. So I took her out, and as we're talking, she talks about the phenomenon of, you know, they kind of call it like attaching. She said, you have to be careful. These spirits will attach to you. You give them permission and they'll attach and follow you on. And I'm going, bing, you know, well, that's funny because Bigfoot will do the same thing. You know, I had people contact me and said, I don't understand it, man. Went 60 miles away, started researching this Bigfoot. I live in Kansas. There's no trees. There's no nothing. And, you know, I wake up one morning and there's these giant handprints on my windows. How did that happen? You know, and I'm like, well, you know, welcome to my world. I don't know how it happened. They followed me home 25 miles. Footprints show up in the backyard, handprints on the side of the house. They start selling dog food. The neighbors see them. I don't get to see them, but the neighbors do. The police come because the neighbors saw them run through my front yard. It's like, you know, the free for all around here. And so
hey, it's not a bad free for all.
Yeah, but it's just, you know, I live in a small town. You know, you're looking around, you're thinking, oh, Scott, you're just full of hoot. There's no way. And, well, you know, to the neighbors, and I, of course, I hope they, you know, I never said anything to them because both the neighbor directly behind me and the one catty corner, you know, both, you know, saw them. So anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, what did they say to you after they saw them? Were they embarrassed? Were they going to ask you what you saw?
Oh, no. It was the black kid in the hoodie. We had a peeping Tom that year, and it was the black kid in the hoodie because
Seriously?
It was the teenage. Seriously, that's what they call it, because the people directly behind me. It was they saw it in April. They had I was not here. They had a cookout, and they were all sitting out back after dark, you know, in their lawn chairs talking. And there was a tree in my backyard, and one of the lemon looked up, and he was being backlight. What it was is there's a street light behind, you know, out on my street, so it was backlit, you know, that Bigfoot. And the woman's like, there's something, you know, somebody in that tree watching us. Well, her husband's a policeman, so he gets his gun and his flashlight, and he does the halt, come down thing. Well, this thing jumps out of a tree 15 feet. Hits the ground running and runs away faster than they've ever seen anything run. So that was in April. And then in August, I come home that same year. I'd gone to Walmart, you know, and it's about 9:30, 10 at night. It was on a Friday night. And there are two police cars in my driveway with lights going. I'm like, oh God, you know, what's my son done, you know? And I pulled in. Yeah, I pulled in and I'm like, hey guys, what's going on? He said, well, the lady over here, category to you, she had a prowler that had her dogs barking and jumped the fence and ran through your driveway. So we're just over here looking around, making sure that the prowler ain't over here. So I'm like, okay. So the next morning, I go over and I see her out in her backyard, and I go talk to her. And I said, well, hey, what was going on last night? She said, well, we had a prowler. It was that black kid in the hoodie. I said, oh, was it? Yeah. Didn't you know we had a peeping Tom in the neighborhood? He's been up there at that little girl, that 16-year-old girl. He's been climbing up the tree and looking at her window, and they've called the police on him several times. I said, oh, really? I said, well, what did he look like? And she said, well, she used the word it, my dog started barking, and it was crouched down, on the left side of my house, and she had a screened-in deck and in a pool. She said, I went out and I was looking, and then I saw it, and then it got up and ran around my pool. It just like a hurdler. It went over the, my fence and went over your fence and went out your driveway and then went through the neighborhood. Never saw anything run so fast. And I said, it, huh? She said, no. It was a he. It was a he. It was that little black kid in the hoodie. And that's, and of course I wasn't going to say nothing because, I'm sick. This thing was about my height and my dimensions. So I wasn't going to say anything because I didn't want to be accused of being the peeping Tom climbing the window looking at the 16-year-old girl.
Yeah, really. No.
But I did call the police department as a concern and said, yeah, I live in this neighborhood. And they did confirm that they'd had about a dozen calls in the last 6 months for a peeping Tom or prowler that was 6 foot, matched the description. He was 6 foot tall, 210 pounds, in the black hoodie. And we all know that was like a teenage Sasquatch.
How tall was this kid?
He was 6 foot. They said about 6.5 foot tall.
Hmm.
So, and about 200 pounds. It was a teenager. But they would, so, I found infant footprints at my house. I found huge adult footprints, and I found mid-size. So I've got one trail camera video where you got the eyes glowing. You got the mama holding the baby. You got 2 big eyes. You got 2 little eyes. And then one of the pictures, everybody says, why didn't you put a camera up? Well, I did put a camera up, and I got the eye glows. And then they're smart, okay? They're not stupid. They know what a camera is. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think they can sense I'm pretty sure they can sense them. But, they would literally come up and lay the camera down and then do what they wanted to do. They just did. And same thing out in the woods. Trail cameras are about a 2%. 2% of the time you're going to get something. Usually they're doing something crazy to it, licking it, standing in front of it. They know that it's a passive infrared sensor, so if they stand in front of it, it's just going to white out. So they set something in front of it, it whites out. They do what they're going to do, and then they take the stick out from it. So it set off, it whites out. 10 minutes later, it goes off again, and all your goodies are gone. So that's just the way it is. And so I think people need to realize you're not dealing with a dumb ape, mm-hmm. and you're dealing with another human being. If you're really serious about this, you're dealing with another human being, and you've got to change your thinking totally. And they don't want you to see them, and they don't want to be found. So there's what you're up against. Mm-hmm. And when pretty much people say, I'm going to start researching. I said, nah, don't start researching. Trust me. Go golfing, go fishing, go hunting.
But don't research.
Yeah, because it's just a rabbit hole. It's not an endeavor you take your kids to the woods on. Trust me. Just do something else. Trust me.
Yeah.
After being in this for 10 years, it's just go fishing, because mm-hmm. they're a sentient being that doesn't want to be found, and they don't want to be studied. Everybody says, what are you doing in your research now, Scott? Well, I'm really not technically researching. I do wear the back trail camera. I'm kind of, because I'm not stupid. They follow me around, and I've kind of got the thing going on where they know that I know, and they do their thing, and they've attached. So, but I'm not going to, I don't seek them out, or, I don't do the trail cameras. Look, we've got DNA. I was with the DNA study. How many footprints you want? I got 1,000 footprint pictures. I've got a pretty decent video of them. I don't know what else to do. I'm in Steve Ishdall's camp. We're past the point of they exist. Let's move on. Let's just move through this stuff. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'll go hiking, and I'll put the back trail camera on. Sometimes I get stuff, sometimes I don't. But it's just at a point, it's we got footprint ad nauseum. I've got vocals ad nauseum. I mean, what is left me to do? You're either going to look at my stuff and say it's a bunch of crap, or you're going to look at my stuff and say, oh, okay, I see it there. Okay, they're real. Good deal. I think it's time to move past that on to informing the public, because these things are out there. They're living out there, and they're running people's. The sad thing is, and I help people. Some people don't deal with them like as good as we do. Some people, it totally and completely changes their dichotomy. I've had a doctor call me about to lose his mind, and he just wanted to know they were real, that he wasn't hallucinating, that he was insane. And bless his heart, and he was he's famous. He was a well-known doctor in town, and if I called his name, people would know him. And I don't know how he got my name, but he messaged me on Facebook, and he called me. He says, look, I was hiking in the Smokies. I come around a curve and come up over the hill, and in the creek was Bigfoot stood up, stared at me. I mean, I'm a pediatric, surgeon. I know what a body, this thing was real. It had muscle groups. It was staring at me. There's flies buzzing around it. He said it turned around, walked off. So, it was real. I said, I can't tell my wife, can't tell my pastor, can't tell any of my friends. He said, I'm about to lose my mind, because everything I've been trained from my religious viewpoint, from my professional viewpoint, these things, that shouldn't be there. That shouldn't exist. But I can't deny I saw it. And basically, he just wanted me to tell him, no, sir, you're not crazy. They do exist. And, give him a little bit of background information and listen to his story. And that, to me, seems to be the need, because a lot of people, since the authorities are not telling people they exist, and they know they exist, let's be honest. The Forest Service knows they exist. The military knows they exist, probably known since the late 50s. Okay, they know. It's just that they don't. They know. They all have their different motivations for not telling the public. Whether it's money, I'm sure the Park Service, it's about the money. You can't, if you tell them, hey, we've got an indigenous group of people running around that's 10 foot tall, and some of them are good, and some of them can steal your child and eat it. So be careful. So even a 10% drop would be devastating to the economy. So they're not going to tell anybody. And then you got the military and the ABC outfits, and they're wanting it for for the military value. And then you got you got on the religious side, it's, some people are just trying to hide God. And if you got a creature that has these abilities, and, it just blows Darwinism up, no, we can't have that. So we got to hide, you just got, you got this group, these different motivations for keeping this thing secret. But, to me, it's criminal, because, we're sending people out in the wilderness without being equipped. I mean, if like in California, they have grizzly bears and they have mountain lions. And so you have education about it. The public is informed. They know. My beef is, well, let's go ahead and just get over this. We have a group of indigenous peoples that are living in the wilderness, and you may encounter them. And these are precautions you need to take. So when someone sees one, I mean, there's outdoors people that will literally stop going to the people that hike or fish or hunt, that will, I've known of hunters that encounter one, and they literally get so disturbed and so scared that they sell everything. They move from from a outlying area into a city, so they don't ever have to encounter these things. That's a pretty big thing. And then some people, it's such a life-changing, some people have, some serious emotional issues to deal with. So I think, we got to get past, just the regurgitation of whoops, hollers, and footprints and trying to get videos. So, listen, you're never going to get the scientific community to accept anything except a body. Good luck. I'm being honest. I don't want to poo-poo on anybody's parade, but good luck getting a body. They bury their dead. Some people think they even eat them. They might. There's some tribes, there's some groups of people that literally eat their dead because they think spiritually they're taking them in. So who knows what they do with their bodies? But we're not finding them. And then when we do find giants, the Smithsonian, swoops in and takes them or whatever. So, it's just good luck finding a body. I just don't think you're going to find one. I don't think you're going to be able to kill one. So, I guess my question to the whole community is, how much is enough?
Mm-hmm.
How many footprints do you need?
Yes.
How many, what do we got now? Thousands? I mean, I like to listen to Bigfoot case files. She's read thousands, I bet.
Wow.
How many do you need? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Cliff Barrettman's got a garage full of footprints. Jeff Meldrum's got a lab full of footprints, handprints. I know that, video footage is hard to get, but there are some decent video of them. And you got I guess that's my question. How much do you need before we just go ahead and put that to bed? Say, yeah, they exist, and now let's deal with it. Let's make sure we help people, and that's kind of where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. Where do you see? Well, actually, the current state of research. What do you think that's in? I mean, where do you think that is?
Well, you got people like me that it's real. We've done all we can do. We're moving on with our lives. I mean, and then you've still got that perpetual group of people that think it's a bipedal ape, and they just keep going around in round circles.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go out in the woods and whoop, and we're going to collect more footprints, and we're going to get hair samples, and we're going to try to have another DNA study. And the DNA came back came back human. I guess it was contaminated. Oh my, but that's and that that's the two. I mean, that's kind of where the split is, and everybody's so concerned about scientifically proving it. And at this point, I don't know what that means. Scientifically what? I mean, The only thing the scientific community is going to believe is when you put one on a slab. And in my opinion, if you kill one, you're committing murder. Okay, because they're a human hybrid at the very least. So, and I don't think I think it's too difficult. I know every now and then one gets killed, and then the body. Trust me, if you hit one in the car and you make the 911 call, I've hit a Bigfoot and it's laying in the middle of the road. I guarantee you that the guys that show up are not going to be your local police, and I guarantee you it'll be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Because David Pilates has a story on the reservation where a woman, a mother, saw a Bigfoot that had been hit. It was under a tarp. The tarp blew off. It was Air Force guys getting it out of the road at this point, and they were real mean to her. She went home and told her sons, and you don't disrespect mama. And so they got their guns and jumped in the truck, and they chased this Air Force van over 100 miles an hour through back roads, trying to get it to stop. And they finally were afraid they were going to wreck and kill themselves, and they let it go. So so I don't know. Even if you killed one, could you get it away from the authorities? And I doubt that.
Oh, Scott, I wish we had more time. I think Jen was just
we need to find out more about your books because we have 1 minute left. So where can we find your books? How can people find you?
Okay, well, I'm easy to find. If you just Google Scott Carpenter Bigfoot, I guarantee you'll come to my books. I've got blogs. I'm a poor man, so I don't have websites, but I got my blogs, the Nephilim Among Us and the Truth Denied. If trust me, if you Google me, you'll find me. I think you guys got my links. I have these in paperback, and then I also have them in ebook for those who like the Kindles and stuff. And so you can see more about my research and my different blogs and my different websites.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show with us
tonight.
Welcome. We really have enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll come on and visit with us again sometime. Anytime. Just give me a call. I'd be glad to do it. Wonderful. Well, thanks again. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. Won't you tune in with us next week? I think we're going to have Johnny Manson on from the Washington State. So let's welcome him next week on Wednesday. So join us here on the ParaX Radio Network. Good night, everyone.